Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name's Leora and I talk on here about books and writing sometimes as well. And today I'm on an especially creaky bit of my floor. Just noticed that. Wonderful. What I'm also doing today is positively melting, as it is so warm in the Netherlands right now and I'm trying to wear my witchy astrological outfit and it is killing me. Anyway, why I'm wearing this astrological outfit, that is what I'm actually doing today, which is filming a video recommending you guys books based off of my own astrological birth chart. I'm not sure if anybody else has ever done this because it will probably expose me and all of my personality flaws and basically my entire personality in depth to you guys. I've seen some people do this with like enneagrams and personality types, but not with astrological birth charts. Disclaimer, I am not that big into astrology. Well, I mean, I like astrology and I like knowing what my birth chart is. I think horoscopes are fun and I definitely think there's some universal powers at work all of the time. Like, I don't think your star sign necessarily defines you, although I can really see myself in my birth chart. But I understand when people are skeptical, of course. I do think that I've had wonderful conversations with the people around me because of astrology, because you just tend to start talking about things that you see in your horoscope or in your birth chart that you normally maybe never would have brought up in conversation with the people around you. So I definitely think astrology is a very valuable and lovely thing. Now, with that out of the way, what I am planning to do, I have the app CoStar, which is not my favorite astrology app, I have to say. I actually think I like Pattern a bit better, especially in Pattern you can do like bonds with people and they say everything about how your relationship is or will be, which is always very interesting. My favorite part about that is also that you can see like what your match would be with celebrities, which is just way too much fun. I will proudly let you know that Pattern thinks that me and Harry Styles can build a home together. So anyway, I'll not be using Pattern today, but I'll be using CoStar, and I've basically looked at my sun sign, my moon sign, my Cancer sign, and then I think my Venus and my Jupiter sign. So my big three and then two other signs. A lot of my chart is in Aries and a lot of my chart is in Aquarius. So I've picked Jupiter and Venus because those are Aquarius and Pisces, and that way we have 5 different signs. So I thought that would be fun. For those of you who are not big into astrology, let me just briefly explain. All the planets in the sky were in a position, like a specific position at the time you were born, in the place you were born. So you have the star sign that you probably know, which is your sun sign. And then you also have the sign of where the moon was in the sky, and also all these other planets. So where Jupiter was in the sky, where Mercury was in the sky, all these different planets. And it's very interesting actually, because of course these planets all move with different sort of patterns and speeds. So some signs define a whole generation, which is just so interesting. Okay, so now let's pop on over to my birth chart and I can start recommending you guys some books. So firstly, my sun sign is in Aries, which some of you may know because I was born on April 2nd, and I definitely can see myself in Aries. I am very fierce and independent and I tend to be a bit fiery every now and then. So CoStar has like sort of different things to say about each of your signs, and that is what I base the book recommendations off. So for Aries it says you're assertive, persistent, courageous, competitive and independent. So then I sort of took those traits and started thinking of books that remind me of that. So of course Courageous immediately made me think of fantasy books, and one of the fantasy trilogies that I really adore is the Life Ship Traders trilogy by Robin Hobb. This is the first book, which is called The Magic Ship. Or at least in Dutch it's called Het Magische Schip. This is basically the story of the living ships and all the people that are on the ships. Basically, if a ship is in your family for 3 generations and then the last generation dies on deck, the ship comes to life and then you can go to even more exotic places and other lands to sort of have trade there. And all these powerful families in this city have like live boats, of course. And then we follow this one family, Althea's family, and their boat is about to come to life. And then there's also this pirate that wants the boat as well. And it's like a whole thing. There's lots of different storylines, lots of different characters that are competing and have their own motivations and struggles. And Robin Hobb is just really good at writing characters that feel so incredibly real, like it is wild. And Althea, who is one of our main characters, is one of the most courageous, persistent characters I've ever read about, so that is why I thought of this book. Another book that immediately came to mind for me was The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is a book about Avery Grams, who basically all of a sudden wins a gazillion billion dollars. She gets an inheritance, but it's from somebody who she's never met. It's this old man that has died and has left a whole family and a gigantic mansion. He wants to leave all his money to her and nobody knows why. So she moves into the mansion for the reading of the will, but then when she's there, of course, the whole family is angry with her because they're like, why does she want the money? And then the old man that has died has left all these clues and sort of games for her and his 3 grandsons to figure out and to solve the mystery of why this random girl was left all this money. The main character of this book, again, is super persistent, very courageous, definitely also stubborn, which I think is also a character trait that you see a lot in Aries. So yes, I immediately had to think of this book, and it's definitely also such a good read, so I do highly recommend it. Okay, then my moon sign, which rules your emotions, is Cancer. So yes, I'm a crybaby. I am very sensitive. So for Cancer, co-star says, sensitive, thoughtful, empathetic, martyr, abandoned. You're scared of being abandoned by the ones you love, and you're an emotional wreck. And yeah, I sort of see that. So for this one, I also have 2 recommendations. I want to start with Heart Talk by Chloe Wade, which is a collection of sort of illustrations and poems and short stories and nibbits. Like, it's more sort of like has a zine feel to it, and it's not like necessarily the best poetry I've ever read, but it just really hit home when I read it, and it just sort of made me sad, and there were so many like familiar feelings in this book, and it's definitely a book that is big on feelings and discussing feelings. So it's a very wonderful read. It's not too long, so it's something you can fly through, you know, just read in between, and it was something I really adored. Another book that I immediately had to think of, because it's also so introspective and very emotional and might make you cry, is Before the Coffee Gets Cold. This is the second book, Tales from the Cafe, but of course I would recommend you start with the first book, but I don't have a physical copy of the first book. This is basically about this cafe where you can go to time travel, which is a wild concept, I know. So basically you go there, you get a cup of coffee, and you can travel back in time. You can only travel back, and then you have to drink your coffee before it gets cold, because otherwise you will get stuck or something horrible will happen, and you cannot leave the cafe or your chair, so you have to stay there and like talk to somebody. So, and you can't really change anything about the future either, so there's like a lot of boundaries, which is what makes it so interesting. So in these books you read like sort of several short stories about people who have traveled in time and who have sort of experienced emotional journeys. So we have a mother and a daughter who could have never met otherwise. We have like a man and his wife who has dementia, so they don't really remember each other anymore, and then they visit each other one last time, stuff like that. Like very introspective and emotional, very beautiful. It's a bit of a slow read. I know lots of people found it a bit dry as well, but to me it really tugged at my heartstrings, and yeah, I loved it. Then my rising sign is Libra, and co-star said about Libra, compromising, cautious, fair-minded, sometimes passive-aggressive, and that Libra seek towards balance in all forms, aesthetic balance, romantic balance, and judgment balance. And what I knew about Libras already is that often they are the life of the party, but they are very, very, very bad at decision making. And I think especially the life of the party thing made me think of Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reid, because the main character in this one just like sort of radiates Libra energy. Like, she's very energetic, and she definitely is the life of the party and always like dancing and trying to be optimistic about things. And this is also a book that definitely goes into like our society and what could possibly be wrong with it. So it has that critical tone, which I think also sort of fits Libra. Not sure why I think that, but this book is definitely seeking justice, so I don't know. So we follow Amira, who's apprehended at the supermarket, and they think she has kidnapped this white child that she's got with her, but she's babysitting the child. Amira's black, the child is white, and then they think she's kidnapped her, but she's just babysitting. And then basically the mother of the child, who's a feminist blogger, sort of makes it into this whole thing. But then there's also this element of sort of things in their lives intertwining, even though they have very different lives and face very different problems. And it was just a really interesting book that touched upon topics of displaying activism but not really caring, but also what do we do about these issues in our modern day and age, and how do we approach them, and what are sort of the dynamics between different privilege levels, and like should you use your privilege and how. And it was all very interesting. I have heard some criticism of this book being fat phobic and having like some fat phobic things in there, so definitely check out the Goodreads reviews if you want to be sure that this is something you would like to read. I thought it was a really interesting novel, and I'm definitely glad I picked it up. Okay, so my Venus is in Aquarius, and basically Venus is the planet that sort of rules how you love and your romantic life. So I thought for this one I definitely had to pick a romance. I just had to. So for Aquarius it says unconventional, intellectual, and somewhat detached. It's so accurate, it's embarrassing. Bubbly, but more into less obvious forms of romance. I don't know, because I am into like big romantic gestures. And then it says, family means a lot to you, so you channel your romance and loving into family and friends, which is definitely very relatable for me. So please believe me when I say that I've definitely thought long and deep about recommending another book than this one, but I just couldn't, because it fits so perfectly on all aspects, which is also why I think I like this book so much. So yes, here I am talking about book lovers again. Anyway, this is Book Lovers by Emily Henry, one of my favourite romance books. I've recently read it, I've been gushing about it ever since, and here I am doing it again. This book just fits so well because our main character is very close to her sister, so there's that part of like familial love and like sisterly love, friendship love, and she's also definitely somewhat detached, not into obvious romance. So yeah, it just all comes together in this one. So basically Nora is a cutthroat literary agent who's really, really good at her job. She feels like this thing keeps happening in her romantic life where people dart off to the countryside and like get together with this sensitive girl and then dump like the cold-hearted city bitch, and she's the city bitch. But then she goes to the countryside herself and then sort of has a thing with the literary editor. It's about books, it's about love, it's about overcoming your fears and dealing with family issues and talking to each other, communicating. It's such a beautiful book, it's very funny, it's sexy. It's laugh out loud, it's like everything you could want, and it definitely also has beautiful prose, so I would just highly recommend it. Okay, and then last but not least, my Jupiter is in Pisces. What that means is that I am optimistic, I am philosophical, I grow and find empathy through dreaminess, compassion, romance, self-expression, creativity, and pleasure. Okay, so because it said something about dreaminess, I immediately had to think of some dreamy novels that I really love. And one that is very near and dear to my heart, but that I haven't talked about that much on this channel because I read it in 2018, is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, which is just one of my favorite books of all time, and it is so due for a reread. It is like incredibly due for a reread. This is, by the way, the Dutch copy, if you're currently thinking like, I've never seen that copy. So this is a book about a magical circus, about two magicians who are battling it out, about a love story stretched out over several decades. It is about magic, it is about mystery, it is a dreamy fever dream of a book, but it is so good. And this is like all I can say about it, because if I start to actually explain the plot to you, I will ruin it. You just need to read it. It's so dreamy. It is one of the most like sort of weird novels ever, but it's really good. It feels like it's floating, like it's not on the ground, you know, it just like floats you up into the air, into the story. It's definitely a very Pisces book because I know lots of Pisces are very dreamy as well, so yeah. Would highly recommend this one. So those were some books I would recommend to you based off of my birth chart. I really enjoyed thinking of this video idea and then actually filming it. I had such a fun time. I really hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Definitely let me know in the comments down below, what is your star sign and what book would you recommend based off of that? If you don't know what to comment, then just leave some nice celestial moon, star, planet emojis. Thank you so much for being here and watching. Have a lovely day. Bye!